ladies and gentlemen, we meet again towards Shabbat, Parashat Bahar and Bechukotai, with a short and sweet idea. This time, something very, very fundamental about our existence as Jewish people. In fact, the parasha begins, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe b'Har Sinai lemor. Okay, we were told at Har Sinai. What were we told? Shemitah. Shemitah, the sabbatical year. What makes the mitzvah, this individual mitzvah of a sabbatical year, keeping the Shemitah, so fundamental that it gets such an intro? That is what we were told at Mount Sinai. What is it? What is so special about it? So for that, we have to go back and understand that we are, first of all, a nation, and only afterwards a religion, which means Pesach came first. That's when we became a nation, Am Yisrael. 50 days later, we got the Torah, and we got Torah Hashem, and we became a religion. However, when we talk about a nationality, what makes a nation? So you speak to any sociologist or anthropologist, you look up the Webster or the Cambridge Dictionary, you find out for a nationality you need three components. To have a nation, you need, first of all, a people with a common history or common destiny, preferably both. A land which has got something to do with a common history and a common destiny, preferably both. And a language, a common language, and some people have more than a common language, of common food and dance, so they have a culture. And those are the three components that create a nation. However, there is one nation in the world, a very small nation, that in the third component of language and culture has a third section, which is the religion. And the religion is where the language comes from, and it's where the culture comes from, and it's the religion that identifies which land we're talking about, and it identifies which people we're talking about. So we have a situation that our nationality and our religion are inseparable because they define each other. And this is what is which is so very fundamental. But it comes to show in our parasha, when in the parasha it says quite clearly, all these three components. Let's look briefly at the parasha and see how it says here. I can't find it. Here I can find it. Yes. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe b'Har Sinai. So what's the second pasuk? Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land and I assign it to you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of the Lord. That means Shemitah has got to do with the religion. It's a religious obligation towards Hashem because it's a Sabbath of the Lord. And then it says, okay, 6 years, it's 6 years you may sow your field, 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather the yield. And then what happens? In verse number 4, but in the 7th year, the land shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath of the Lord. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyards. So stage 1, we understand this is a mitzvah, a religious mitzvah to Hashem. However, Pasuk Hey tells us something else. You shall not reap the aftergrowth of your harvest or gather the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land. Okay, there's a second reason here. First one was a religious reason. The second one had got to do with giving a rest to the land. However, that's not the end of the story, because the next pasuk, next two psukim say, 1 minute, it's not just a rest for the land, and it's not only a religious obligation towards Hashem, but you may eat whatever the land during its Sabbath will produce. You, your male, your female slaves, the hired and bound laborers who live with you, and your cattle and the beasts in your land may eat all. That means it's also a social issue. So we have a mitzvah which has all three components. It has between man and God, which is a religious issue. It is between man and man because everybody is welcome to eat from everybody's produce. And it's between man and the land, so that the land has a rest. So this is very interesting. And that's what makes it so beautiful and so fundamental. because it actually is at the core of our nationality, this mitzvah of Shemitah. It's interesting to see that also Shavuot, one of the highest moments we have in the year, is bringing Bikurim, bringing the first fruit to the Beit Mikdash. Why? Because it only can be a Jewish person, belonging to the people, who bring the first fruit from their land, and they bring it to Beit Mikdash. So bringing Bikurim is kind of a very high point of the year. It's when we show our identity on the highest level. We're not at Bet Mikdash yet, but we're getting close because we already have Yom Yerushalayim. We already have Yom Yerushalayim, and we see that that the picture of I think this picture speaks 1,000 words. I think we all know this picture of Rav Goin blowing the shofar at the Kotel Ma'aravi. So we're getting there. We're not bringing Bikurim yet this year, I'm afraid, but we're getting closer. We're in Israel. We're already working the land. We already have our first produce. We even have Jerusalem. That's why we're so happy in a few days about Yom Yerushalayim. And what we teach in our yeshivot, in our ulpanot, is three things. We teach them to be connected to the people, to the Jewish people, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, to protect them, to go to IDF, to go to the army, protect the land, take care of the land, have a relationship with the land, travel the land, know the land, and know the third issue is know the Torah, know our foods, know our customs, know our traditions, know our culture, and know our mitzvot. And that's what Jewish education is really all about. Jewish education has got three focal points: the land, the people, and the Torah. And whatever is outside these three is not really Jewish education. Jewish education has these three focuses. And that's why the Torah starts B'Har Sinai. At Mount Sinai, we were taught something very fundamental. What is that? Shemitah. Because that makes a focus on these three issues more than any other mitzvah. Shabbat Shalom and Yom Yerushalayim Sameach.